Good morning, everybody. This is Michelle Walters from Butterfly Survivors Tribe. I hope everybody's doing well today on this beautiful Sunday. I am at Glendale Park, right next to the 2 North in California here. So you could hear some bikes racing up the street, definitely some cars. I'm very close to a road. So there'll be a little bit of background noise here and there, but I'm going to try and make a really good video anyway. I hope you all are doing great today. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm going to stay talking about my experience as a childhood sexual abuse survivor. When it started when I was 5, and some of the memories I've talked about when 5 and 6, so I'm going to stay in that age range for this video today. I'm going to try to make it around a 10-minute video. At the end of the video, I am going to pull an oracle card from the Law of Attraction, which is, there's very helpful messages on here, so I really like doing that. And there was a whole new level of healing once I started looking at doing oracle decks and getting into the tarot and all that kind of stuff. But I'll get into more of that later in my other videos. But for now, what I'm going to talk about is, like I started to say, when I was 5 and I was living with my mom, she didn't make me go to school. She just didn't have the background to do that. So I ended up missing so many days of school that they recommended that I be held back. So I was held back a grade, and that was really hard for me because I was a girl I was already tall, right? So now I'm a year older than everybody, that a lot of the people I'm going to school with, and I was getting teased. So that was when I moved into my grandma's house, like I said, out of the pot into the frying pan. So I went to school, Benjamin Franklin in Glendale, California. And there was just, kids can be real cruel, as we all know. And that I was getting teased about being taller, being older, and what's the matter, are you stupid, and blah, blah, blah. And, that goes along with the narrative of a lot of the abuse that I had to put up with in my own household. Of course, it's there, kids, they have rules. There's rules at school, but when you're in your own home and you're a child, and especially a child of my generation, which is Gen X, I'm at the tail end of Gen X, so things were just different. There weren't so many laws about things, and people were able to get away with more, and in certain incidences, and especially the adults that were raising us kids. So I was held back, and it was not easy. But basically, I would always go back to, I had friends and I had neighbors, and I would always just go outside and play and enjoy myself and be able to have fun, and just, there was no sense of time. I'm not sure if it was like a thing of the 80s or because I was a kid at that time, or why it felt that way, but it just felt like there was more freedom in certain ways. Now I think a lot of us can kind of get stressed out because there's always some way to communicate. The phone's always ringing, or there's always something going on, and we need, in my personal opinion, we have to set aside self-care time, whatever that looks like for you. For me, it's like I need some meditation time, I need some quiet time, I need to have some peace. And I realize that stems from an overactive nervous system, which occurred when the abuse started. So, because the environment around me as a child was very chaotic, there was always something, like going on, something that I had to be concerned with or afraid of, or something. And it was at this very pivotal age, like I said, around 5 years old, which you are so impressionable at that age. And, the adults, I think, that raised our generation, Gen X, they weren't as aware of how much a child really picks up on, or how smart the child really is, or all the things that we know today to be true. So basically, getting teased at home and then getting teased at school, it led me to believe certain things about myself that just wasn't true. It was like it wasn't only because I was a child and I was in the developmental stages of forming opinions about myself and others and not really understanding how everything works yet and still learning. This is a very pivotal age where you start to believe what you hear from people, and you start to believe that just because somebody says something about you, whether it be negative or mean-natured or anything, you just believe it because kids are gullible at that age. So basically, I was teased, a lot of name calling, like I said, both at school and at home. And it was just a different time. A lot of times you don't know your reality all the way. You don't know what's true about yourself and what's not. You're just beginning to, at this age, form opinions about yourself, and have a different state of awareness and consciousness. So I want to get into a little bit of the healing stages of when I began. I'm going to kind of go back and forth, but what I learned in basically therapy and is awareness. So there's an awareness of what you need to heal, and usually that stems from your childhood, from when your memories began. So I would basically take a list. I would write a list down of the positive things about myself and the negative things about myself. This is when I began to do therapy. When I saw a psychologist and I began to go to Al-Anon 12-step program and all that. So basically, you write down things that you like about yourself. This is just a suggestion. You don't have to do this, but this did help me heal a lot. So 5 things that you like about yourself, and maybe 3 things that you don't really like about yourself, and you're gonna maybe want to work on them. And sometimes it's just a change of perspective, and you don't need to change anything. But making lists, I found, is very helpful, because awareness, you need to be aware of what you need to heal. 2, taking action to heal. Healing is an action. So, you could decide what that looks like for you. Maybe you want to go to church. Maybe you're already in church and you have a great community. Maybe you've talked to your pastor before. Maybe you haven't. But these are all things. You have all these different avenues of ways to heal, especially today, right at your fingertips. Like I said, you could enter a forum online of survivors talking about their story. You could read other survivors' stories. You could go see a psychologist. You could go to a Survivors Anonymous meening, which I did, and I just went to one and it didn't feel right for me. I didn't feel welcome. But these are all, there's so many ways. Hypnotherapy, get into your body, start healing, doing yoga, any of these, anything, sports that you love, anything that is healing So take action to heal. The third thing is perspective. We can't change the past. All we can change is how we feel about the past and how we let it affect us, and how we progress as we get older and had some healing under our belt. And when you get older, your opinions and your mindset changes anyway. So those are the three best things I can say. Be aware of what you need to heal, make lists, take action to heal, and try to find the silver lining so that you can have a positive perspective on your past. And then moving forward, try to create the best future that you can, and make sure you get that self-care in there, whatever way you need to do it. Every single week, do something 2 to 3 times a day, I would say, that you really love. It could be something as simple as having a cup of coffee every day. It could be something as simple as going to a park every Sunday, or being in nature, or any of this. So I hope this has helped you guys, and I will see you in the next video. And before I forget, I'm going to read the Oracle card, like I said, from the Law of Attraction. And what I pulled for everyone here is believe. I believe that each check I write brings money back to me tenfold. Hope you all enjoyed that. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.